holding your energy to be able to create and transform it into something productive. If you've never heard of it, it's basically what I just said in a less dramatic way. Voluntary celibacy, going for a period of time without indulging in your sexual impulses or desires. Now, a lot of people look at it in either one of two ways. They either look at it as like a way to self-improve, level up, or focus, or they look at it as a way to get control over their vices. And at one level, you can split it into two ways. Either moving away from the imagery, the videos, the stuff like that, and also the other side in terms of a physical pleasure, right, with other people. The sexual desires, the having multiple partners, or just putting a lot of time into sex as a whole. Those two camps, right? The biggest thing, or the biggest draw for both sides is the ability to regain control over your impulses. Semen retention is really good if you are the type of person who lets your sexual desires overrun your life. If something is easily accessible and it's free or it's cheap, that means you are the product. And if you are the product, that means that there's a cost. And that cost would usually be your energy, it'll be your time, it'll be your attention. And you have to think about what that looks like in your practical life. There's levels to it. Some people, they do it once a week, maybe a couple times a month. The levels of like people who are addicted and do it multiple times a day, it takes over their work, it takes over their thoughts, it disrupts their sleep. You know what I'm saying? And this is either with a partner or virtually. So it's one of those things that people look at a little bit crazy also. Because a lot of people they make videos too where they're like, oh, day 30, I started attracting more women. That's the most backwards, like contradictory way to approach something like that. It'd be like if you're obese and you're like, oh, I'm gonna start fasting so that the next time I see some food, it tastes better and I can binge eat more. That's not the purpose here. That's not what you should be trying to accomplish. It's about regaining agency over your impulses and your desires. A lot of great men throughout history have fallen, not to war, not to violence, not to gluttony, but to lust. And even in the Bible, if we look at great figures, he had a binding vow with God. Can you imagine that? A binding vow at birth with God in the Bible. And his strength came from his hair, his long hair. And Delilah was kind of an op too, to be honest. I was his wife, so had he not fallen into his lust and he had kept his control over his agency, he wouldn't have fallen the way he did. He wouldn't have given away the secret to his strength. I mean, that can even be deeper in itself too, looking at the idea that your strength lies within your energy. That's something to consider when you do something like this, or when you want to do something like this. You have to consider the reason why you're doing it and also the outcomes that you can realistically expect coming from it. And my anecdotal experience in terms of doing something like voluntary celibacy or semen retention, or whatever you want to call it, or I'm not going to be like super esoteric about it. I didn't start levitating or creating force fields and stuff like that. For the most part, the biggest benefit that I find, I noticed that there's more energy. I noticed that I don't need as much sleep and still feel refreshed. I noticed that it's easier to be more consistent for me. I stay on top of the task that I want to do, long-term task. Basically, whenever you withhold one form of release, it feels like you want to replace it with another one. And for me, in my case, it's wanting to do more martial arts, do like boxing or Muay Thai, and express that energy in other outlets. Don't let it consume you. Don't let it be something that determines your value as a person. Because some people, they enter this practice, and when they do it, they feel like it's who they need to be. They have to be on this X amount of days streak. They need to do so many days in a row, or they're nothing, their value's gone. It's not about that. It's about gaining agency over how you express yourself and where you put your energy and time. That's the biggest advantage to doing something like this. Will you be perfect? Probably not. Will you fall into temptation? Probably. And if you feel like it gives you more control over your impulses, over your life, and over your choices, then it's worth pursuing, because it'll give you a better sense of awareness. And another thing too is these adult sites, they change your perception of reality. It dehumanizes people because you put them in a lens of a certain scenario. There's a lot of people who fall into this and they're like, I can't build a connection, not the same, it's not as good, and this and that and the third. So moving away from that and giving yourself the ability to kind of reset is very, very important, because if it's affecting your quality of life, then something needs to change. But that's my note on semen retention. So watch this video, subscribe, join the winner's circle, and I'll catch you in the next one.